Hey gang, it's your buddy Platt back here with another episode of Value Spirits, and today I've got an old school classic, Old Granddad 114. That's right, the 114 proof version of Old Granddad, or basically their barrel strength product. A little background into Old Granddad. It was originally produced in 1882 by Raymond Hayden. He wanted to name this product after his old granddad, a gentleman named Meredith Basil Hayden Sr. That Basil Hayden, that is correct. Years later, in 1992, when Jim Beam kind of came out with their lines of small batch bourbons, really the first kind of small batch bourbons that include Baker's and Booker's, Basil Hayden was one of them, named after the same gentleman. So pretty impressive if you think about it. You have two classic brands named after you, Old Granddad and Basil Hayden. Pretty cool. The story of the Haydens and their whiskey production goes back to 1840 when the Hayden Distillery first opened. The family and their heritage has produced some form of whiskey ever since, so almost 200 years. Pretty impressive. Move ahead to 1899, and the Hayden Distillery is sold to the Watland family. At the time, they owned other distilleries and ended up taking all these distilleries to form a company known as the American Medicinal Spirits Company. Now remember that term, because they later would become a national distilling group, which became kind of one of the first big conglomerates in the distilling business, picking up some of the older brands and kind of combining the forces. More importantly, though, they were able to gain enough connections that when Prohibition came around, they were authorized to sell what was referred to as medicinal whiskey. That's where the American Medicinal Spirits thing came in handy. Now, of course, I'm sure political connections were not involved at all or anything like that. They just happened to get picked to make medicine during Prohibition. Luckily, though, that helped save brands like Old Granddad and get them through Prohibition. Now, National Distilling also, at around this time, while they're acquiring brands, acquired some of the other classic brands like Old Crow, Old Overholt, and Old Taylor. Move ahead to 1987, and National Distilling Group sells the spirit ends of the business to a company known as Fortune Brands. Now, Fortune Brands eventually becomes Beam, which then merged a few years back with Suntory out of Japan to create the behemoth Beam Suntory, the spirits behemoth. And so Old Granddad falls under their portfolio. In 2015, Beam decided to do something interesting, and they took some of the older brands, literally the older brands like Old Granddad and Old Overholt, and started their line of what they called the Olds. It was basically these products and their kind of fleshed out line. We've talked about Old Overholt before. They also do a bottle and bond that was 4 years. As far as Old Granddad itself, there is the classic that used to be bottled at 86 proof, now comes in at 80 proof. There is the bottle and bond, which is at 100 proof. And then this particular one is their barrel strength at 114 proof. All bottles of Old Granddad, you will see the picture of Basil Hayden himself. But you don't see that on a bottle of Basil Hayden, oddly enough. But I think that's very cool. As far as pop culture in Old Granddad, it has been referred to a ton of times in different pop cultures, James Bond movies, TV shows like MASH, Mad Men. Probably one of my favorite references is in the old Hank Williams song, Women I've Never Had. There's a line there where he goes, "I love sweet young things and Old Granddad." I thought that was pretty funny. Now, what do we have here in this bottle particularly? Like I said, it's 114 proof. It's their barrel strength. It's the Old Granddad mash bill. It's just we're kicking it a little higher octane. Old Granddad, when it first came out in the late 1800s and kind of had its popularity run, was known for a higher rye mash bill. Unlike today, where we're wanting to get the Weeders, your Maker's Marks, your Pappies, the Buffalo Trace type stuff. They came to prominence because of the higher rye bill. This actually makes it really nice to use in cocktails. The rye gives it enough strength and backbone. If you're making stuff like a Manhattan, you've got that sweet vermouth, which is pretty powerful flavor. If you're adding bitters or or syrups, you know, to sweeten whatever, you need a bourbon that has enough oomph behind it. Also at 114 proof, a little extra octane helps. And at $27.99, sub $30, you do not mind using a cocktail. I'm sure people have done it and have the money or whatever, but to utilize something like a E.H. Taylor, your 25-year Michter's or, 15-year Michter's, some of those kind of things, obviously Pappy, stuff like that. It's silly to utilize those whiskeys, but Old Granddad is great for that. It used to be the house bourbon at the Bellagio years ago and used in a lot of their classic cocktails. So Old Granddad, let's go ahead and jump in this bottle. I am eager to give this a try. All right, let's go for the nose. Woo, brother, that is there. That is the stuff, but it's not overly hot. 114 proof, you would think it'd kind of burn the nose, but not overly hot on the nose. Get a little vanilla, get some basic wood notes. Not real deep on the nose, but you could really pick up some of that oak too. Let's go ahead and dive in. $130. That is not bad. Wow, that is... It hits you right down the middle of that palate. You get that sweet punch. And then that alcohol just kind of works its way back. And boy, you feel it going down and going down the chest. But it's nice. That's a nice burn. I definitely get that barrel note. I get that rye. And it is just delivering flavor. And it's sitting there. Boy, a nice little finish. We'll let it just sit there for a moment. It really does linger. This thing has, a nice legs to it. Oh, yeah, just kind of breathe in afterwards, and it's still kind of gets you there. I don't mind if I do. I'll go back in again, make sure we've got this thing right. Man, that's nice. Again, 114 proof. You're going to feel the heat. It's, it's really, covering the mouth, but it's not viscous body-wise. Body-wise, I want to give it a medium-ish body, not a huge body as far as viscosity or whatever, but it's got a lot of those, you're really tasting that barrel, you're really tasting that rye. And man, for 114, it doesn't drink insanely hot. A little hotter in the mouth, but once it's going down, nice finish. $27.99. I think this is a really good bargain, and I am definitely going to enjoy this bottle. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or spirits that you'd like me to try, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Well, until next time, bottoms up.